everybody. This is Chaunte Wayans, and we are back with another episode of What's Behind the Scene. Today, I got an amazing guy with me. We actually worked on some things together, or at least I've seen him behind the scenes, and I didn't know how powerful and important this man was. But he is a director. He is a writer, executive producer, and so much more. He's here with us today. Let's give it up for Mark Wesley Watson, everybody. Hey.
Can I do it like
Yeah. We don't put
myself.
Yeah, we don't put the sound effects in.
Just because I was like, there's no sound effect. Nah, man, I'm gonna get some sounds in there.
Get this man standing ovation right now.
I'm gonna start it myself.
Man, I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for coming in and doing this.
Hey, it's my pleasure. It's funny because I don't ever like getting on camera.
No.
I really don't like it. But Hippie, we both know her very well. She was like, yo, Chaunte asked. I was like, there.
Yeah.
I was like, can I mess with you?
I love, see, that's what I'm talking about.
I mess with you.
You know why I wanted to do this, though? But because there's so much stuff that goes on behind the scenes that y'all don't get credits for. And you see these amazing actors and stuff like that, but there's so much stuff that goes into making them look good, sound good, all those things. So I love that those different areas of the brain work and the creativity. And so I'm just glad you said yes.
Yeah,
I got Mark on the debut. Didn't you do my charade show too?
Yeah.
Look.
Hold on, I don't want to talk about that. I'm excited about. Let me be very clear here. I thought I did an amazing job, and you was like, yeah, but I'm under the bus. We lost because of you. I'm like, yo. All of y'all, go back and watch that episode, because I think I did great. I'm just saying.
Anytime I lose, my partner is horrible, so it doesn't.
It's all right. I've learned. I get it. I understand. I want back just to redeem myself. I'm saying it right now.
We'll see. We'll see how
that was her way of saying no. She's like, I ain't bringing this guy back. He ain't gonna be my partner.
I'm gonna just have to put you on the other team.
I'm okay with that. I want to redeem myself.
And then I'm really gonna be mad if you win.
If we win, that's it. I'm gloating.
Yeah, let's get into this. I was reading the article. I heard you saw you're from Maryland, came to California. But I read this article about your brother Matthew and you taking over this project that y'all were working on. I
like how you came out.
I came straight in because I thought I'm like that. So I guess we should start off and tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, it's funny. So I'm from the DMV, born and raised in DC, but spent a lot of time in Maryland. I actually went to college to be an engineer.
Hey.
So my background is in industrial and computer engineering. And I took a lot of that into my film concept, into my film production world. And honestly, if it wasn't for my engineering background, I wouldn't be where I am today. Honestly, because I didn't know anyone in film. I didn't know anything about film. The first time I picked up a camera to shoot something, I didn't know the difference between f-style and ISO. I was just like, record. Yeah, lights. Nah. Why does it look so grainy?
Right.
Cheap camera. Like, it was everybody else's fault except for other than mine.
Right.
But yeah, my background is actually in engineering, and actually did a long stint traveling all over the country, being a training and development specialist. You know what that is?
No, but if I do, please let us all know.
Training and development specialist, I got hired by companies, mostly finance companies, to travel to different places all over the country, in and out of the country actually, to talk to employees, whether they were new hires all the way up to CEOs, and teach them how to actually use their operating systems. The tricky thing about it is as a contractor, I didn't even know this stuff myself. So they would bring me on 3 weeks before and say, like, you got to learn this and know how to.
Yeah.
And then go out and then teach it.
Yeah.
So it was me and about 300 folks that we traveled all over the country, and that was my job. And that's literally how I got into directing, because I was like, yo, if I can do that.
Wait, but tell us in engineering, what was the specifics?
Well,
what would you do?
Well, from an engineering standpoint, it's always basically streamlining a process.
Mm-hmm.
That's what made me really good at what I do in this industry. The idea was always trying to create a very streamlined process based off the resources that I had and the tools that I had to my disposal. So I was always able to make great content with minimal tools and resources because my engineering background was like, here's how you can maximize those resources. That's how I got into this space.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you weren't always, before engineering became a thing, were you interested at all in the industry?
Yeah. Funny story. I was extremely interested. My very first job was at a movie theater.
Yeah.
I was and then before that I already knew, but when I got into working in the movie theater, I literally took that job at 15 and a half because I was like, this is how you get into the movie.
Right.
You work in the theater. I was like, nah, I was wrong. I was extremely wrong,
right.
But that was really my exposure into it. I loved films. I loved them. I could sit and watch trailers for days. I was a projectionist, and I would just sit and watch trailers over and over and over again and analyze the trailers and analyze the films. And I didn't know that that was going to be the way that I mentally prepared myself for being a filmmaker. But yeah, I've always wanted to do it. But I did my stint in music. I actually had albums and things like that, hip hop.
You definitely look like you was in the music.
Yeah,
I would definitely judge you on that.
Yeah, okay. I'm cutting all my hair off. My hair.
You got the whole look. You got the beanie, the hoodie.
Yeah, I was a hip hop artist and had my closest friend in Arizona. He and I did a lot of music together. Yeah, but I do produce beats, and I still use that to this day in editing and stuff like that. So all of these things that happened in my past, apply to.
That makes sense. You definitely got like a KRS-One.
Oh, right.
Not the look.
It's my gray hair. I like how you made KRS-One.
No, I love KRS-One.
Okay. Good. Then I'm
cool
with
some everything. Absolutely, cool. I would never do that to you.
All right.
But I want to ask, when was that? When did you? Because you said while you were engineering, that's when it hit you. Do you remember like the exact moment of?
Yeah. As an engineer, I knew the exact moment that I didn't want to be an engineer anymore and I wanted to focus on film. The idea of working with Homeland and being an engineer at Homeland, they were like, yeah, so you're going to spend about 2 years behind a computer, 12 to 14 hours. I was like, stop.
Yeah.
And I got to work for somebody too? Oh, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
So I told my mom, who to this day will tell me very quickly that she regrets the fact that I went to school to be an engineer, especially with my math background and things like that. I told her I want to move across the country. I didn't know anybody here. I packed up a U-Haul truck and I drove out here and said, I just want to work in film.
That's some good shit right there. That's a great storyline. Now, because I have to bring this up because it reminded me so much of myself. But in the article, it said that y'all were working on this project and y'all were paying somebody.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, which I want to hear from you, y'all decided to continue the project yourselves.
Yeah. So this was kind of going back to that thing I mentioned about not knowing how to operate a camera.
Yeah.
So my brother, he's an amazing photographer, actor, writer. He wanted to get into doing web series. This was almost 15 years ago. He wanted to get into writing, and he was like, yeah, I wrote a web series. And this web series that I'm doing, we got to bring in a camera operator because we didn't have that. And I was like, all right, cool. I was making good money at the time. I'm like, yeah, let's bring in a camera op. Brought in the camera op, $300. So this is not my engineering background.
Yeah.
So bringing this cam op, the cam op comes in with this little DSLR. I think it was like a Mark III, a Canon Mark III. Comes in with this DSLR. He's like, yeah, I can shoot it for $300 a shoot. I was like, wait, excuse me? And we had 10 episodes. So all I heard was $3,000. That's all I heard. $3,000 for a web series that maybe 50 people going to watch. That's the first thing I heard. So he shot one day, so I paid very close attention. I was like, oh, he put that light right there.
Mm-hmm.
He put that camera right there. He hit record and said some stuff before that. Cool. After that, I was like, we're done. You don't got to come back. $1,800 for the camera, $3,000 for the guy to come and use the exact same camera. So that's how I got into it. I just bought the camera that he was using.
Yeah.
And then started doing it myself.
So what's interesting for me is like during the lockdown time, I started to invest because I have a background in technology. I wanted to go for computer science. And then, so I'm heavily into tech or computers.
Right.
And if there's something I see and it's not working my way, I will figure it out. I don't care how many mess ups or anything like that. I will do the same thing. But it just hit me because like you said, you go from 300 and all you hear is 3,000. And that's my thing. And the crazy thing on the flip side is being being the person that comes on the screen.
Mhm.
When you hear what people are paying, you go, man, that's so little.
Right.
But when you are on the other side and you got the camera operator, the audio guy, then you got your talent,
Right.
and you got a season of talent,
Right.
that low cost that seems to be a low cost for you adds
Exactly.
up.
Adds real
It's like,
fast.
how I get to 50K?
Like, wait a minute. Like, and again, because of my background, it's just I'm just seeing all the resources on how do I streamline that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's really became my focus really quickly. So yeah, the project we took over, that's how we really got started. And honestly, I literally laugh, and me and my brother, we joke about it all the time. Like, how did we get here? Because back then,
Yeah.
we was legit winging it. Like,
But it
record,
worked.
stand things.
Look,
yeah.
it got you here,
Yeah.
and you working with so many people and directing and
Yeah.
all those things. Which I want to ask, what do you feel is the importance of the director?
Well, it depends on the director. There's a lot of directors that take a lot of different approaches. So I can't really answer that specifically for all directors. And that's really probably the most important thing, is that every director is going to have their voice, their style, their way. And if you're going to be successful at it, you need to really find your voice, style, and way. For me, it's always about telling the story. As a director, whether it's unscripted, scripted, that my role as a director is to make sure that my audience, when they're watching something afterwards, they understood the story that I was trying to tell. They understood what the purpose was from beginning, middle, and end. I got what he was trying to say. So whether that requires me working heavily with the talent for a certain project or working with the folks behind the camera for a project, it really varies for me, primarily because it depends on what the project is.
Yeah.
I do a lot of unscripted stuff, as you know. A lot of it is not really focusing primarily on the talent. A lot of it is focusing on what am I trying to capture. So I'm working heavily with the DP. I'm working heavily with my cam ops, and I'm saying I need certain things to get captured within this so that when it gets into editing, I can tell this story. For me, directing is about being that storyteller, getting the story across.
That's beautiful, man. I find it interesting because we're living in this time of like social media, which it's making everybody a director, their own production company, and all those things. So, with that being said, why do you feel like we still need someone on your professional level as a director?
Well, quality is always going to be quality. I think a lot of people kind of get caught up in the idea that as long as they're creating content, that you're going to be successful, and in ways that you are, if that's the goal, is to just sell something. If that's the goal, then cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I understand that exists. But then there's quality. There's the content that you're trying to put out that is done on a professional level, and that requires professional people to actually do that. And if you are just starting out, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that someone who just got into the business cannot be operating on a professional level. Maybe just the quality of their gear is not up to par and they're trying to figure it out. That's still okay, but there's a level of professionalism that you're going to get, a level of timeliness, a level of streamlined things. Like, how many productions do you know you've probably been a part of that ended up costing 3, 4, 5 times as much as it should have to get something that could have cost a fifth of that?
Yeah.
That's where folks like myself come in. Typically, that's all about quality and all about efficiency. That's usually why you hire someone like myself.
What is your process when receiving a project?
That is funny. I get a lot of those. I get a lot of projects, and this kind of goes into this whole takeover thing that my brother talks about. I spend a lot of time focusing, one, on the point of that project. Next, I focus a lot on actually the resources that's going to take to make that project what it is, what I believe it can be. Third is then bringing in my team. I have 2 other guys, my brother, Matthew Watson, and David Space, that I literally spend a lot of time breaking down these projects. Whatever it is, unscripted, scripted, we spend a lot of time talking about what that project is and what their vision is as well. I trust them enough to be able to give me perspective. That's extremely important. I need to get their perspective, my brother's perspective, David's perspective, and then going back to the people who bring me that project and saying, okay, give me your perspective. What is it that we're trying to do? And the final really big piece before we even get to the production of it is, are we all all those who have their hands in the cookie jar, are we all going to be happy with what it's going to be when it's done?
Yeah.
Do we have the same goal in mind? Do we have the same vision in mind? Can we get to the same place and be content with what we actually have? That's just pre-production. We haven't even started shooting it.
Right.
It's like a process. Again, my engineering brain always works through it that way. Like, I don't want to get to the end of a project and realize, like, Mark got what he wanted.
Yeah, yeah.
But whoever brought me the content didn't.
Yeah.
David and Matthew, they're like, yo, this was great. And I'm like, yo, I didn't tell the story. I wanted to tell it all. Man, this is trash.
Right.
So it's a whole process just before you even get into production. And then production, that's a whole nother conversation. Now it's what kind of gear, what kind of resources, how many locations, where am I going to get sponsorship? Where am I going to get funds? That becomes a whole nother. That's a 2-hour tutorial.
That's not has
that we
nothing
ain't
to
doing
do with directing.
Not even close.
So we gotta have you on the screen a third time.
For
something. Dang, man.
Yeah.
There's so many, and I just love how you're building, because you do have a company, Good Luck Road Films, with your brother, and those I should have brought that up way ahead of time, but to know that you guys are incorporating all that is freaking phenomenal.
Right.
That is where I want to say is that when the project y'all work on that y'all took over, is that when you thought of Good Luck?
No. Good Luck. No, okay. So the name came from the street that my brother and I grew up on. So in anybody who's from the DMV area, they'll know this. In PG County, there's a street called Good Luck Road, and that was where I really found what it was I was passionate about, what my brother was passionate about. And before we moved out here, we knew that this is what we wanted to do. So that's where the name came from. But no, taking over the projects, honestly, and I hate to say it like this, because I'm about to say this on camera. That's why I don't like talking on camera.
Speak your mind, be yourself.
There's a lot of people with ideas and have no idea how to execute them. And they want to tell you how they're going to execute it. And I asked, when's the last time you executed any of it? Never. Yeah. What's your plan on getting it executed? We gonna do it, man. Right. It's meant to be. I'm like, bro, that's not a plan. If you start off with that, it's meant to be. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna make it happen. Like, cool. What's the plan? Yeah. It's gonna happen, man. Because people want this. This is what people need. I'm like, that's not a plan. Yo, please stop talking. Yeah. It drives me absolutely nuts.
That's a good thing though, because I was gonna say, are you a director that'll take on any project, or do you have to be passionate?
Oh, yeah. I've been fortunate and blessed enough to be able to be very picky about what it is that I work on, and was able to do that very early. Even, like I said, 15 years ago when I took over, when we didn't know how to operate a camera, financially, I was in a good place. So by the time I really got heavily into this space, it was, look, I'll pick and choose whatever I feel like working on.
That's always the good level.
Yeah. So
that's such a great feeling.
A lot of people don't know that I spent a lot of time when I got out here working. I played cards professionally. Like, there was a whole another line of career of things that I was doing well before I got to film. I told you we could talk for hours. Right. Like, if I told you like my full story. Yeah,
we're gonna do a part two, because I love to have all this information. I'm like, I was sitting here going, what can I actually ask him that's going to be great? And then, I don't know. I love this. So it doesn't even matter. Anyone who influenced your directorial style?
It's lots of different people. I think that's really what makes me who I am. I actually grew up a really, really big M. Night fan. Really big. Even to this day, I still am a big M. Night fan. Sixth Sense and Unbreakable even more so, was probably the first time I watched a film and I said, I'm going to be a filmmaker. Hey. Bruce Willis, Samuel L., the twist at the end, the concept behind the story, perfection to me. Yeah. In regards to ways I like to tell stories. But I'm a big horror psychological thriller fan. I can watch those all day long. I love anything where you have a twist, where the story is really based off the story. We're not worrying about CGI. We're not worrying about any of those things. You're just telling a simple story. There's this film that I watched called The Exam, and it's literally all shot in this one building, 8 people taking the test.
Oh, wow.
It's one of the simplest films. Yeah. If they spent more than $100,000, I'd be shocked. Yeah. one of my favorite films.
That's like Circle.
Yeah,
You see
very
Circle?
much like Circle.
Yeah.
The Circle, yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
we all
They ain't
we
even
all
really
sitting
need
there,
lights.
zit, zit, zit. You dead. 2 minutes, you dead. I was like, yo, what the hell? But I watched it. I'm like, why am I so stuck?
Yeah.
It's the same. I love those type of things because now your focus is the story. It's not focusing on the CGI. So there's a lot of film directors. I'm not going to get into a list of them because at the end of the day, there's so many different directors. What I appreciate is just the art of telling the story.
Yeah.
I will mention this. Clint Eastwood. A lot of people don't know Clint Eastwood is a director.
Mm-hmm.
Clint Eastwood is one of my favorite directors too, and a lot of people don't know that.
What did he direct?
So $1 Million Baby is obviously one of the first one. Gran Turismo is another one. But he's done some really offbeat ones like Space Cowboy and things like that. He tells these really crazy stories, blood work, but they're all done where it's just a story.
Yeah.
Everything, there's not a single thing where it's focusing on the CGI. It's just great storytelling. I love great storytelling.
You made me think of something because as you're saying storytelling, there's also writers who put the script together. So how do you differentiate? Like, how do you know? I mean, I know the director is bringing it to life, but how do you differentiate between the writing and the director?
Usually you can kind of just tell the pacing of it. So even if it's something that one writer's written versus something else, the pacing of it, the way the story is being told, the shots that's being selected, the delivery of the talent, you start realizing that there's a style. Clint Eastwood is, again, I go back to him, there's a very succinct style, no matter who's writing his projects, that when he's directing, you're like,
that's it.
Just like a James Cameron.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah.
It don't matter who's writing what. James Cameron directed, like, here it comes.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to pan up. Look at Bruce. Nah, man. Martin Lawrence, Will Smith. Here comes the camera to my face.
Right.
Like, certain directors, they pull off certain types of things. You know what I mean? So I said, Michael Bay. I don't mess with Michael Bay. I'm going to say that out loud, too. Michael Bay, trash.
You kind of said it low still.
Michael Bay's trash. Michael Bay's trash. Well, fight me on it.
Why is Michael Bay trash?
Trash. That's all. Nope, trash. Hit me up on Instagram. We're going to have this debate. Michael Bay is trash. I'm going to go see Transformers still, but he's trash.
He still supports. See?
No, hold up. That's a whole different conversation right there. Moving on. Next question.
This is what I say to people that leave negative comments on my stuff. I'm like, thank you for your like and your comment and your view.
That's fair.
Man. So how do you work with actors to create the best performances?
A lot of, just like I mentioned with going into selecting a project, there's a lot of conversation that goes into the project itself with talent. So I spend a lot of time really breaking down the layers of a character, breaking down their idea, their vision of that character and what I have in mind. If I'm not able to get on the same page with that person when it comes to the delivery or the character that we see being fleshed out, it's usually not going to be a good fit, and I usually
you'll leave it
real fast, or I'm out myself. I'm like, it's probably not going to be for me.
But that's pre.
Yeah.
Because my next question was going to be, how do you handle creative differences? Pre is a different story because you can get out of it, but during.
Yeah. So I have a very specific project in mind. I won't name the project because I don't like the director of that one either. And you already said not to leave negative comments. We're going to leave that one alone. Because, I was about to say his name, and then it's going to be a whole nother show. So there was a project, and I honestly had a very difference of opinion with not just the lead talent, but also the writer of the project. That was really interesting because, again, you bring me in to direct, you're bringing me in to actually create a story, and at the end of the day, the writer had differences. The talent had a very big difference of opinion as well. The two of them really saw eye to eye on what they wanted. I try to have conversations. I try to, stop. And what I don't want to do ever is show everyone else that we are not on the same page. That's the worst thing you can do, at least for me. One of the worst things you can do on set is say, hey, the writer, the lead, and the
Mhm.
director are not on the same page.
Mhm.
So I like to try to give people the opportunity to deliver what they have in mind. So that's what I ended up doing. But now you get into the contradiction of what we were talking about before, streamlining a process.
Yeah.
We are now spending a lot of time on what I know is not going to work.
But
But you have
that's
to do
more
it.
money for you, right?
We spend a lot of time. On what's not gonna,
So
come on
you
now, come
invested
on.
into the project.
No, the project was still kind of early in my career.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and there was no so you're getting
Yeah,
paid per day.
Oh.
It's like
That's
how
the
much
worst.
I was like, more time, no extra money.
So you had to finish the whole thing.
And this is why I said I'm not going to talk about it. That movie never came out.
Thank God.
They started reshooting scenes, and the scenes that they were reshooting to try to fix it, I was not a part of, and that was maybe 8-9 years ago. That film would never come out, ever.
I think that's the beauty of like really being in a position to go, I just want to do stuff, not necessarily my way. Like I'm open to critiques and stuff like that, but having that good creative energy or understanding, or let's see the eye and eye. I worked on a project too where I think the hardest thing is to have a director, not a director. He was a producer. He created the project, wrote on it, but then he was always on set. And I didn't understand the difference, like why people wouldn't want writers on set.
So then you're like,
and it was literally, I don't want to say the worst experience, but it was a lot of just extra work that didn't need to be done.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How has technology changed filmmaking in the recent years, and in what ways have you adopted new methods in your production?
It's changed it in quite a few ways. I mean, obviously the cameras that we use, there's so many people who are now talking about making films on their phone. A lot of people don't know I run a post-production house as well. And I've edited folks' content they've shot the entire thing on the phone. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be trash. Oh, I was wrong. And it was really, really good content. I think at the end of the day, it's just made it more, kind of like what you mentioned earlier. I think everybody has started to find the tools and resources that say that, hey, I can do this myself. I think with a little learning, I mean, YouTube University, whatever you want to call it, just figure out how to use those tools and maximize the tools is really the difference, because I've seen someone take a phone and make a film. Someone take a phone and make an entire series. And it's going to sell. It's excellent content. And someone else who's using those exact same tools not know how to use them. So I think the tools have allowed for a lot more people who have a voice to try to create content. But still, you still need to master those tools and really start learning how to maximize using those tools. Yeah.
If you could have directed any movie or TV show, if you could have directed any movie or TV show, what would it have been and why?
Can I do one of both?
Okay, absolutely.
TV show, Lost.
Yeah.
Because they screwed that up.
I think the first season was good,
The first several seasons was good, and then it just went left.
The director left.
The director left. There was a writer thing going on. It was all kinds of problems. Man, if I could have directed something, I would have loved to direct Lost. Like I said, I love these really mystical type stories and things like that. Things where it's like, where are we going with this? Lost, for sure.
But what was missing?
I honestly think there was no end. The end was not really mapped out. I strongly believe if I'm going to do a project, whether it's a TV show or whatever the case is, I write the ending first. I know what I'm working towards. Whereas there's a lot of shows and a lot of projects where they just write. And it's like, oh, it's successful. Let's write another season. Let's write another season. I always go with the end in mind.
And backwards.
And work my way backwards. Again, engineering, it's just how my brain operates. So 100% that film, Fight Club. And there's nothing wrong with Fight Club.
You just want to... You want to...
I want to be the person that said, yeah, I directed Fight Club.
Wait, so you want to change
Not a single thing. Not a single
you
thing.
Just want to put
just put my name on there. Wesley Watson directed Fight Club. I would retire After that, I'm like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
What? Tell me I did something that was bad. Yeah. That's all. That's all I had to say it. I want credit for directing.
I had a
Fight
whole
Club.
other question from something you said before. Now
You know, that's all right. That's okay. Fight Club. I directed Fight Club.
You directed Fight Club?
I'm just going to own it.
And lost.
Yep. And lost. Nope. I didn't stop you. They ruined that. They ruined it.
They did.
I loved that show.
I didn't really watch it too much. It's weird for me because I could tell when I'm really into something when it doesn't matter how old it was or whatever. Like I'm still completely into it.
Right.
And then some stuff I just go, yeah, I could have did so much more with this.
Absolutely.
But Lost was one of those shows that I didn't sit down and try to get into.
I've literally watched the entire thing 3 times all the way through.
And still,
and
you just
still
mad.
get mad.
You do?
I watch it again. Like, why did y'all do this? Who was this person? Why did you do that? And then I honorable mention Walking Dead too. I
would have wanted to direct The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead is that's my type of movie, but I like horror and thriller too.
Yeah, Walking Dead. I have to say,
and I don't think there's any other zombie show or movie that has captured what they captured in all of the seasons.
Right.
There's been a few episodes where I was like, come on, you know, a story, get it together. Yeah. But I've been able to watch the entire season.
You're gonna watch the new ones and all the spin-offs and
well, I started Fear Walking Dead, and I know that came out during or something like that. That was okay. I'll watch it if it has the same people attached. But I don't know. If Negan's a part of it, I want to see what happens with that.
Dead City, then we watching that. We need to do a whole thing.
Let's do a premiere.
I heard that's coming out.
Let's do a weekly
watch party.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm down for that. Listen, you see this right here. This is a deal. I want to be at the watch party.
I'm absolutely down for that.
Well, before we get out of here, I want to ask: is there any advice you can give to the young directors and creators coming into the game?
I don't want to give the canned answer. This is where someone will simply say, don't take no for an answer. Yeah. Just keep doing it. I'm not going to give a canned answer. My answer is, if you're a director, act like one. That is the best advice I can give a director. And I don't mean act like one, like fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you're a director, act like one. Show leadership. Show ambition. Tell me that you are every day doing something that is helping you perfect that craft. That's what makes a director a director. So act like one. That's the best advice I can give. A lot of people want to walk into the space and just pretend or not do the work that it takes to actually achieve it. Now, I ask folks all the time, like, what did you do today that says you're a director? If you're not doing something every day that a director is doing, then you're not a director. So act like one.
Y'all heard it. Act like one. Act like one. I love this. Before we get on out of here, going to let them know what you got going on, where they can find you. Yeah. And please speak on, I heard you got a new show that you executive produce.
Yep. So what do I have going on? So a lot of folks don't realize this. I do a lot of work with Kev on Stage, so folks at Transit, Kev on Stage Studios. I've produced and directed a number of shows that's over there right now. Give Me Five, great talk show with BT Kingsley. Yeah, I did a food show I partnered with Hippie to create called 2 Bite Rule. That was actually pretty cool. Hosted by Cleo Thomas. And then my newest show is actually a show about dating and marriage and things like that called Honey Do List.
Hey.
It's kind of like a newlywed game, the old newlywed game with a twist to it, hosted by Melissa Fredericks.
Hey.
Really good show with a lot of the comics and folks that you all have all grown to love and see.
Not me, you know.
Okay, well, see, you got married literally after. Right? Hey, man, this thing is like, yo, I got married like 2 months earlier. Right. Like, on it. So yeah, a lot of great comics and folks like that. And honestly, if anybody who knows this about me, the shows I produce and create, I like to put a different spin on how we get to know the comics that we all love and see. Not put them in a place and say, here, tell me a joke. Let's just get to know the personal side of you, but in a nice, relaxed atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 Bite Rule was always about sitting, eating, but just getting to know them from the food influences. Give me 5, their opinions, their ideas in regards to all different types of topics, movies, music, foods, favorite white people. I did an episode. Top 5 white people. I'm serious. It's a thing. We had fun on that episode. That's a whole nother
There
story.
is a thing on that. I know Leonardo had to be in there. Was he not?
I'm not saying nothing.
I gotta watch it. Where can you find it?
This is all on the Kevin on Stage streaming app. Go check it out. And then Honeydew List, that's premiering on July 6th. Make sure you check that out as well. But,
and then where can they find you?
Oh, and see, me and the social media.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that. So you can find me on Instagram at MWesley, the producer. That's MWESLEYDA producer on Instagram, or my production company, GLR Films. You can find me on there.
Hey, that's what's up. Make sure you follow him, and make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at C Wayans. Check out for upcoming tour dates and more. We'll see you soon. Peace.